Yeah, I want to talk about my mom. My mom is a difficult person. She told me when I was a kid that I was the first person she had ever talked to. That we had had a conversation in like the house office, and she actually told me I'm the first person she's ever actually like spoken with. Her parents' home is like china in the kitchen pantry. It's extremely clean. These people don't own anything. Um, they've gotten themselves prepared out of the living space. Bed always made. Like, I'm definitely a part of the generation, like avocado toast, who has, like, a comforter. I don't make my bed. I have a comforter. I can throw it over it. Or tuck the things on the side. I'd rather not do that, right? Um, she had a breast reduction, and she believed in that for me, too. So, yeah, she knifed my dick when I was a kid. And then she would go and she would make me swim in a pool. After she did that, she made me wear tiny Speedos and swim in a pool. And she used to like starve herself. She's an anorexic. And she would sit at the edge of the pool, show it off her hip bones, while I had to swim back and forth. She would like sunbathe. She was gross. She never had braces, so she always had like craggy teeth. I haven't really had braces either. I have, but I haven't. I had the Invisalign, and they did a little. And I had that in my 30s. So, um, yeah. My mom was, I think she used to poison me because, like, I never got sick eating food, like, after I ate hers. And she'd always come at, and she'd always have that little sentence, like, that's what you get, right? And so, she was a cruel person. She used to twist my arm. She never, ever, ever told me anything good or nice. There was never like comforting. She never had comforting things to say. She had worrisome, attacking things to say. So, yeah, it was awful, awful, awful. Um, she, like, I remember how she talks to my sister. My sister did kill my cat, so my sister's not cool. But I remember how she talks to my sister. She just has this attack, right? She doesn't have a way of like comforting you or saying hi in a nice way. She walks up and she just like a plow puts all the problems that could happen right in front of her and just hits you with it. Like, you know, she actually created a lot of cover in my life because people who knew about us or knew us shielded me. They knew she was crazy and unfair, and they've gone out of their way to ignore her. Like when I was accusing her of all that stuff, I was putting it on open postcards. I was mailing the postcards with less postage than you need, but they were delivering it to her anyway, and they were putting stamps like, when like the post office stamps it, they were putting interesting stamps like thinking. Who stamps that thing with thinking? Right? They did. The post office did. So, um, yeah, she was a cruel woman. I never saw her with friends. I never saw her with anyone beyond my family. I remember how my dad and her used to hug. They would, my dad was worse. Like, they would have, like, the briefest, like, hug rub, and then they would, like, separate and not touch. And that's how she was with me. It was, like, one hug every 2 weeks, you know? Never, ever, ever, ever like me sitting with her and like close cuddle or something like that. Nope. That wasn't allowed, you know. And she just she was fake. She was fake. She was a fake person. Like fake happy, fake cool. Um she says the nickname for her used to be Fatty Patty 2 by 4. I don't know if that's true. Um yeah. I remember there was I went to this thing with other kids, preschool, like 3 or 4, and there was gonna be a birthday party. I was like, I'm gonna have a birthday. It was like my first conscious birthday, um, and I invited all these kids. Well, she just like rounded up random neighborhood kids. She de-invited them. She said they basically couldn't go, and she got some random neighborhood kids to go instead. And I just remember it because she just lied to me. She was just like, "Oh yeah, that's them." Like, as soon as you're circumcising your kid and saying he won't remember it, then you're abusing him, like making him swim in pee and giving him fake birthday parties. Like, she was just an incredibly cold and offensive person. Um, like, the very last time I went home, she bent over and she stabbed my stomach like this. Um, yeah, she gave me like a low hug and she went like this and stabbed my belly. And I always remembered that, like, after that, I was like, that's who she is. She just doesn't like me. She doesn't want me to exist, right? Um, and a few of the things she'd say that didn't happen too is you'll have a family one day. She used to, like, here's something that happened is she said, this happened to us. We went through this and we hated it. And the normal person would go, so I'll never do it to you, right? That's to me what you would normally say. What she did instead is she just like doubled down and did it anyway. She went into it and did it anyway. Um, yeah, I hate my mom. She just like she's the one who taught me how to apologize, and she's the one who taught me to apologize. If there was a time in my life where I was always saying sorry, it was because of her. And they never had it. They never had a nice way. They never had a way. They never had a way of making problems seem small. Right? They had a way of ratcheting it up and making the problem worse. Right? So any like material responsibility, like not going to school or not doing homework, was the biggest deal to them. They never saw my art. They didn't even like it. I got beaten once for painting on a wall. Right? A normal person would just repaint it, but them, that was big enough crime that I had to be hit. Right? Um, she's so vain. And the other thing is that, yeah, she circumcised me, forbid me from having relationships. I basically was just alone. I could be in my room in silence studying, and that was where I was supposed to be. Right? Which is a waste of time. It's just, it's slave stuff. Um, but she could start relationships whoever, my uncle, um, any random guy, homeless people. Like, she was a whore, right? So she ruins her son's body and hates that and like does the religious oppression and then basically sleeps around with whoever. Like, she knew my brother would be taller than me. She just knew it, right? I'm way taller than my dad, and my brother's way taller than us. How'd she know, right? So yeah, my mom is not a nice person. She never, ever, 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 ever has something comforting or soothing. She used to twist my limbs too. I remember her coming over and screaming at me above the crib. Like, she was with my dad because he had an engineering job and had money. It's the only reason. And cheat and bed down with some guy who can pay the bills. Um, she never was like, let's do some affirmations. No, not that. Yeah, she betrayed my dad when it was funny. I had like this plan to get them divorced because as bad as she was, he was worse. Um, And the plan was that and he believed this, he was just such an idiot. I told him what to get her for Mother's Day. And I was like, yeah, get her some pots and pans and a vacuum. And she did not like that at all, right? And immediately after that blow, I could tell she was just like unhappy, right? After that blow, he did. He got her some pots and pans and a vacuum. The guy looked like such an idiot. He couldn't believe it. His love of pain and chaos and his like religious followerdom met with that advice, and he took it. He's like, "I'll do that." And then I told her he was a pedo, which he was. He supported circumcision. He was into the girls across the street. He didn't touch me in a way that felt good ever, but I don't think he never like he was circumcised too. He didn't. He never did that, but he like a child defiler. Yeah. And she was out. That moment, she was divorcing him and had called in her material favors to whoever for cash and was supporting us. And I think she had other kids than us. She just won't tell us. But yeah, she's just like she sucks. And I remember like she had this like weird open door policy. I couldn't close my door ever. Um, and she used to like hover about that. I chose not to have kids early in my life. I just said it was too painful. This was ridiculous. It was like all bad news. And before you go karma, nah. There's no, you really die, is the news. Once the thing that makes you you is rotted, you're fucking gone. Um, yeah, karma is how the ruling class, they used to cut off baby balls. Karma was how they blamed who they did that to for what happened. But it's people on earth who use you. They're not nice. But anyway, um, yeah, she just sucked. She never had my back. She never had like anything nice to say. There was never any comforting words from her. It's gonna get worse and worse. And like she had a way of making situations more painful. Um, yeah, and I still remember that she said that I was the first person she ever had. She had her breasts reduced. Like, what are you doing having kids if you hate that? If you don't like reproduction, you have no business having kids. I've noticed that people who have kids dutifully for Christ and then shine away from those lusty things. But she was a hypocrite. She loved that. She was a crazy person. Yeah, my mom was a crazy person. I've always to this day associated people with like cracked lower jaws, like lower jaws that are not in alignment or neat. Like my brother was born with neat teeth. I think my brother's more or less a good person. He was victimized a lot by them too. Um, but yeah, people with like craggy, disorganized teeth are just evil somehow. I don't know what it is. They're just like backdoor when you're not looking evil. Um, yeah. I remember how like my mom split from my dad so fast. She was willing to. It was the pots and pans as a gift for Mother's Day. Pots and pans and a vacuum. And then telling her he was a pedo. And I told her around school. So yeah, she being fake was in her "I'm a good mother" act, and so she had to do what a good mother did. I didn't tell her at home. I didn't even tell her without him there at home. I told her at school, and then she was socially and I knew that she would do that. I like had to read that would get her to do it. If I told her at home, she would ignore it. But if I told her in front of others, now she would have to react differently, right? Oh man. So, because just living with her, then I could like basically brainwash her more, and it did get a little easier. I had more freedoms. I had a computer. I had more time. I could be on the computer. Um, I went to school less and heard about it less. So, yeah, having her as a single mom was a lot easier. And then she just like started this relationship with a bell. Apparently, she didn't like it. I don't know, man. She says he's her soulmate. I don't see it. I think he's gross. And she and he diet together, and she and he do like endless chores. They don't have the ability to sit down and just relax. They're always, always doing some like monumental task, even to the point that they do it and undo it later. They will do house improvements that cancel each other out. They will do something and then have to tear it down later to do something else. They're crazy. They're crazy. Um, yeah. Like my mom too, she had like a big lock of my hair and she's like, "You don't know what this means." She meant witchcraft. She meant she would be able to do spells on me. Um, I just hate her. She could have been so cool and she just wasn't. It was the fact that she was a religious zealot. She wasn't into like being nice. You know, the religion is confusing. It will make you a crazy person because it's not real. It's not a genuine faith. Um, and it just sucked. She didn't stand by Steven at all. He got accused of being a pedo. Oh, well, I gotta leave him. I knew that she was fake. She will totally betray her kids in the name of what someone else might think. No loyalty to her own children at all. She will absolutely ruin their lives over what any random person who doesn't know us might think about them. So, her food used to make me sick. She cooks meat. She eats meat. Yeah, they sucked. I remember I didn't really have any like my room decor didn't really upgrade or change my whole life. Like the whole time I was there, um, there wasn't a time when it was like I hit my self expression phase. There was never a time when I collected objects for display. It was like I literally the only thing I had were the books my dad liked because those were the good books. Everything else was suspicious. My dad's an idiot. Like his craggy jaw, the fact that he was in missiles, like you're gonna fly a payload, why not use a laser? He didn't believe in lasers. I even said that as a kid. I was like, use a laser. He's like, no, 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 lasers wouldn't work. And I guarantee they're way better. So I just think of him as like this. He was paid to do something for the government that basically sucked. It ended in people dying, and it ended in just like a huge waste of money. Oh yeah, he does the CRAM. The CRAM costs like $2,000 per bullet, and it fires like hundreds of bullets a second. So he can't knock a missile out of the air with the laser. He's got to fire hundreds of bullets a second, hundreds of extremely expensive bullets a second at it. That's what my dad did. He was an idiot. Like you talk about like government waste and spending. That was my dad. So, and that's who she liked. That was the guy she was gonna let's reproduce together. I think what happened is she like I was maybe somebody else's, and Luke is maybe somebody else's, and she decided to marry Steven because she goes, he's the first person who ever loved me. I was like, it's a weird story. Um, and I think he wanted a segregator from Los Angeles. And so he took a job someplace else and talked her into it. I don't really know. I don't really know. Her name, I don't use this for any of my passwords, so it doesn't, no problem in telling you. But her maiden name is McBride, which is such a funny, like, manifestation name. McDonald's, McBride. I don't know, man. Yeah, my mom. She she had a cordial talking relationship with me until I became anti-circumcision, and then she went nuts. And then it was, I think she basically knows that she could get in trouble for it if the social tides turn, which goes to show who she is. Apologize for something and show genuine remorse for it, or put the person down and totally destroy his character so you can't get blamed for what you actually did. She went with B, how she betrayed my dad. Oh yeah, circumcision is a crime. She's out of there, man. She doesn't want to extra big locks on the doors. My sister apparently alluded that she had talked her into all of that. Yeah, putting Mishi down and shit. My sister's a little manipulative person too. My sister had a YouTube account for years, and I was the first subscriber to it, like the only subscriber to it. I unsubscribed from my sister's own YouTube account just to not see her. She's just a mean person. And it was mostly because of growing up in our family. So, yeah, my mom was not a comforter. She didn't ever like touch you in a way that felt good. It was like a hug every 2 weeks maximum. And it was like, it was lonely. I remember that she never had anything nice to say. She never ever said things that brought comfort. You know, she never ever said things that made me feel like it was gonna be okay. The opposite. She needed me to understand it would not be okay. Right. Um. So, and her and my dad together were like, my dad used to snore. That was probably one of the reasons I said that thing about him, was that he snored so loud. Nobody could sleep with him at the house because he was just like a horrible snorer. I know I must be too, but I've got no problem living out in the woods. Um, as soon as my lease is up, I'm out and living in the woods again. So, yeah. She definitely will never ever apologize for like circumcision. Mm-mm. I'm weird for not liking it. Yeah. But she like I remember her like doing the pool stuff. The pool stuff was super weird. Like going and showing off her hip bones while I had to swim back and forth and like yelling at me during sports and stuff. I never liked my family. I because they're my family, I needed them to be better and more for me. And they just weren't. They didn't have the resources. They didn't have the social backing. They were religious cultists who believed the government was God, and they just couldn't question. They couldn't question anything, and they would betray any of their family members for what someone outside their family might think. And this is different because it's like already over. I don't think I'm gonna see her again, and I don't really want to. She just sucks. She would betray her kids over what some random government official thought, for sure. So she betrayed my dad over a simple allegation. Like she wanted to go. That was the thing. It was the getting the. She wasn't given diamonds or jewelry. She was given a vacuum cleaner and some pots and pans, and that was it. She was out. She didn't even know it was my idea. I was like, hey, that's Steven. So But yeah, she abuses my sister. Like I never saw her and my sister interact in a way that was nice. As my mom clearly had like a jealousy attack pattern over my sister, and she would like literally like when it was time to get my sister, she would load it all and like it's like how a snowplow picks it up and just carries the dirt forward. That's what she would do, and she would just like arrive standing over her, basically like worry storming her down. She thinks I'm bipolar. Like, here's the thing about my mom. She pisses people off. She pisses people off, like, pretty severely. And then she thinks they are bipolar. When you can't call or say something nice. I'll always remember that my first birthday. Like, I had these people I wanted to spend it with that I had known. And she just, like, canceled them and then invited locals to fucking do the party. These random kids I had never seen before. Right? I had never seen any of them before. I didn't know who any of them were. And it would, but she had the audacity to just lie to me. Like, oh yeah, that's them. And it was like, you'll watch. I don't celebrate birthdays. I'll never have a party for myself. I guess that was the point. So he was like, get over it. But they just sucked, man. They just fucking sucked. They were more loyal to the government and the religions than they were their own kids. And that will always be the thing that I hate and pains me about them is they didn't have our backs. When those religious people go crazy and kill their kids, that's what I lived through. Yeah. I think they were more afraid of the law and government to do that, but that was the only reason they didn't do that.